They say the silence before a storm is the most terrifying thing you can ever experience, but they are wrong. The most terrifying thing is the silence asterisk after asterisk your entire world has shattered. When you are standing completely still in the debris of your life, realizing that the person who swore to protect you was the one holding the match. My name is Maya, and for 7 years, I believed I was living a fairy tale. I had a beautiful home, a career I loved, and Marcus a husband who felt like my anchor. He was the kind of man who still held my hand when we crossed the street, who left little love notes on the kitchen counter, and who looked into my eyes as if I were the only woman in the entire universe. Our friends used to call us the gold standard of couples. I wore that title like a badge of honor. I trusted him with my past, my present, and every single one of my future dreams. But trust is a fragile, translucent thing. It takes a lifetime to build, but only a single second to turn into dust. It all started on a rainy Tuesday evening. Marcus was in the shower and his phone, sitting on the nightstand, buzzed. It wasn't a normal text alert. It was a rhythmic, persistent vibration that wouldn't stop. Usually, I'd never touched his phone. We didn't believe in boundaries born out of suspicion. But that night, an inexplicable chill ran down my spine. A strange, suffocating instinct urged me to pick it up. The lock screen displayed a message from an unsaved number. It read, asterisk the bed feels cold without you tonight. Can't wait for this weekend, asterisk. In that exact moment, the air left my lungs. My heart didn't just race. It felt as though it had completely stopped beating. I stared at those words, waiting for them to change, waiting for it to be a mistake or a wrong number. But deep down, in that quiet, intuitive place we all try to ignore, I knew. The universe was shifting on its axis. When Marcus walked out of the bathroom, steam swirling around him, he smiled that warm, familiar smile that had always made me feel safe. Everything okay, honey? He asked, noticing my pale face. I forced a smile, my lips trembling slightly as I put the phone back down. Yes, I whispered, my voice sounding like a stranger's. Just a long day. But what I didn't know that day was that the man I loved was a stranger, too. And the woman he thought he knew, the gentle, trusting wife who always forgave and forgot, was about to disappear forever. # mid-conflict and betrayal. The days that followed were a blur of agonizing pretense. Every time Marcus kissed my cheek, it felt like fire against my skin. Every time he said asterisk, I love you, asterisk, I heard the hollow echo of a lie. I couldn't just confront him. I knew Marcus. He was charming, silver-tongued, and incredibly gaslighting. If I showed my cards too early, he would weave a web of excuses, make me feel crazy, and hide his tracks deeper. I didn't want a confrontation. I wanted the truth, fully exposed. So I chose to become a shadow in my own life. I began to silently track him. I linked his tablet to an old account I had access to, quietly sensing his location data. I looked through our shared bank statements, noticing small, irregular cash withdrawals and charges at high end. Restaurants in parts of the city he had no business visiting. The deeper I dug, the more my heart shattered. It wasn't just a fleeting mistake. He was building an entire parallel life with someone else. Her name was Elena, a younger colleague from his firm. The definitive blow came on a Friday afternoon. Marcus called me from his office, his voice dripping with faux exhaustion. Sweetheart, I have to manage a massive corporate retreat this weekend. I'll have to drive out to the lakeside resort straight from work. I'm so sorry to leave you alone. It's all right, Marcus, I said softly, staring at the screen of my laptop. Do what you have to do. As soon as the line went dead, I opened the tracking software. His car wasn't moving toward a corporate retreat. He was heading directly to a secluded, luxurious boutique cabin we had once visited for our 3rd anniversary, a place that held some of my most sacred memories. He was taking her asterisk there asterisk. The pain was so intense I fell to my knees on the living room floor, sobbing until my chest ached. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was a total demolition of our history. He was giving away our memories to someone else. But as the sun began to set, throwing long, dark shadows across our empty house, something inside me changed. The tears dried, leaving behind a cold, crystalline clarity. The broken pieces of my heart didn't vanish, but they rearranged themselves into something sharp, something strong. I realized that crying over a man who didn't value my worth was a waste of my spirit. He had made his choice in the dark, and now I was going to bring everything into the blinding light. I didn't pack a bag to leave him. Instead, I packed a camera, gathered my financial documents, and stepped into the driver's seat of my car. I was no longer the victim. I was the author of the final chapter. The drive to the lakeside cabin was the quietest 2 hours of my life. When I arrived, the moon was high, casting a silver glow over the water. And there, parked in the driveway, was Marcus's car. Right next to it was a sleek, unfamiliar sedan. My hands were perfectly steady as I walked up the porch. I didn't knock. I didn't scream. I used the spare key I knew was hidden under the porch planter. The door opened without a sound. The cabin was warm, filled with the scent of expensive wine and soft music. And there they were, sitting by the fireplace, laughing, wrapped in the very blanket my mother had knitted for us. When Marcus looked up and saw me standing in the doorway, the color completely drained from his face. He scrambled to his feet, knocking over his wine glass. The red liquid pooled across the floor like an open wound. "Maya, what are you doing here?" he stammered, his confident demeanor vanishing instantly. Elena sat frozen, realizing exactly who I was. I didn't look at her. My eyes stayed locked on my husband. I didn't raise my voice. I spoke with a calm that terrified him. "I came to deliver your corporate retreat paperwork, Marcus," I said quietly. I walked over to the coffee table and placed a thick manila envelope right in front of him. Inside were not work files, but printed copies of every text message, every bank statement, every location log, and most importantly, the divorce papers I had spent the last 48 hours finalizing with my attorney. Because I had tracked our joint assets, I had already legally frozen the accounts he was using to fund this affair. "You're served," I whispered. Marcus began to beg. He fell to his knees, reaching for my hands, crying tears of panic, not regret. "Maya, please. It means nothing. She means nothing. It was a mistake. Please don't do this." I stepped back, out of his reach. Looking down at him, I felt no anger. I felt no hatred. I only felt a profound sense of pity for a man who had traded a lifetime of genuine devotion for a temporary thrill. "You didn't just betray me, Marcus. You destroyed the family we built," I said, looking around the cabin one last time. "You can have this cabin for the weekend, but by Monday, the locks on our house will be changed, and your things will be waiting at your office." I turned around and walked out into the cool night air, leaving his desperate cries behind me. The divorce was swift. Because of the irrefutable evidence I gathered, justice was entirely on my side. He lost the house. He lost a significant portion of his wealth. And when the partners at his firm found out about his unethical conduct with a subordinate, his reputation was deeply tarnished. He was left with the ruins of the life he chose to break. As for me, I found my peace. I realized that revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It is about reclaiming yourself. True justice wasn't the money or the house. It was walking away with my dignity entirely intact, knowing that I am strong enough to survive the storm and wise enough to never let someone else define my light again.